So, welcome to another scenario, but I can't actually be sure of how good this one is because I wasn't in this one, I got sent this one, but I did want to show it because it is the Bay of BELFALAS scenario. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm not making a complete fool of myself. But yes, this one, as you can see, is a lot more open than most scenarios you actually see, so we're actually going to see some cav action, and we haven't seen some cav on one of my things for quite a while, so I felt like we needed some cav, and it is a 2v4, I believe. Now, the defenders are Dol Amroth. They are at the top of the hill, at least, you know. It's not a siege in name, but it is technically in practice because how outnumbered they are, the other armies will have to attack them. So, Master Blaster and Ebon Hawk, I believe, is the other player who's defending. Hold on. Let's see if I can see one of his units in the distance. Yes, Ebon Hawk 47. So we'll go through both of their armies together because they are sort of deployed together. So we have some White Knights, we have several units of Trebuchets, which they're going to need to use because they are horrendously outnumbered as it stands, and they don't have the sort of advantage of a lot of siege positions. Some of their units are quite exposed. They also have Tirith Air Marksmen, they have the Haven Guard, they have the Edhelond Halberdiers, and they also have the Talon Knights. I have got the graphics on absolute maximum that I can do as well, so hopefully this time it won't lag, and it shouldn't because there won't be quite the same level of blobs as there were in Osgiliath. We also have more Edhelond Halberdiers, and that's pretty much it for over here. There's also more Haven Guard, so there's a lot of Haven Guards. They've got a lot of very elite things, and Tirith Air Wardens again, so yeah, that's a pretty good force. And there's some more cavalry out here. So we have some Knights of the Silver Swan. They've got all of their best cavalry units by the looks of things. Ebon Hawk 47 has got a few units over here of Halberds, Talon Knights and Wardens as well. They've also got a healthy force of Marines. After Moria and Osgiliath, it's going to be quite nice, I think, to do a map which is a lot less choke pointy. So we also have some Tirith Air Knights. There's a lot of cavalry over here, so he's deployed all of his cav over here. Ebon Hawk 47. He's got Knights of the Silver Swan. Look at that. A nice row of Knights of the Silver Swan. One of my favourite cav units as well because of the lances and the uniforms. Dol Amroth in general are pretty strong. And over there we have some White Knights as well. And then over here, near the beacon or the watchtower, we have more Marines. They seem a little bit isolated. They better be careful they don't get charged by Umbar. There's a lot of Marines actually. Unless they didn't have a choice of where to deploy, in which case I can understand. Because they've got almost entirely a force of Marines over here and a force of Nimrodel Rangers. They need to run these guys away before they're charged down by the Umbar cavalry. Meanwhile, Umbar, they were able to deploy a bit. I'm not sure why this guy's new boxed up. But yes, this is Eskal Noldir, or Nordia. So he's on the Discord quite a lot, I know who he is. But yes, he's got Harbingers of Castamere, Warlords of Umbar, some Castamere's Rangers, some Abrazanim Narduzagar. Are these the Corsairs? No, they're the Fencers, well, Corsair Fencers. We have some Belagir Halberds as well. They're not bad Halberdiers, not as good as the Edhelond ones, but they're not bad in my experience. Belagir Footmen as well, Spears, Abrazanim Nardubawib. Again, I apologise if I get any of the pronunciations wrong, but with Umbar I think you can forgive me. Then we got the Crossbow Corsairs with their barbed tips. And I think that's pretty much it for his army. At least in terms of the types of units he has. He's obviously got a few more footmen and halberds. So yeah, he's got some pretty elite forces, to be honest with you. Corsair Blackguards as well. 2 units of Corsair Blackguards, in fact. So yeah, his army's actually pretty elite. Meanwhile, over here, we've got Corsair Dual Swordsmen. This is being played by My Charlex Bryant. Okay. I hope I'm really sorry if I get any of these pronunciations wrong. I'm not a wordsmith. But yes, we have the Warlords of Umbar as a general, I assume. And again, he's got some pretty elite forces back here. Harbingers of Castamere. Again, some Corsairs Fencers. His main line isn't quite as elite, though, with the Corsair Savages and Pikemen. They're going to be very, very vulnerable to missiles. Yes, a prime target. There's a lot of Pikemen, in fact, going down through this line. Their pikes don't look quite as impressive as the likes of the Uruk-hai Pikemen, but then it's to be expected. They are quite poorly trained, shall we say. And over here we have Dwayling. He's playing as another Umbar army. And again, we have some Corsair Pikemen. Out front, we have some Naru Naaru Royal Guard. I assume this is where his general is, maybe. Again, very elite spear unit. And some Castamere's Chosen. So they've all got their share of elite forces. There's no trash armies like there was last time. Belagir Archers. We also have Belagir Halberds. His army's quite spread out. Let's see if we can go through this one a little quickly. Corsair Warriors, more Corsair Warriors. He's also got some Fencers. The Fencers are very, very good. The Dual Swordsmen, not quite as good, but still not bad. Corsair Savages, of course. cheap, but again, in this scenario, it doesn't really matter about cost because you get assigned your armies more than picking them. Corsair warriors, and the rest is just made up of warriors and Balagear archers. And then the final army is Tundra's Fox, I believe, yes. And his army, I assume, is going to be quite similar. Corsair warriors, Balagear footmen, Corsair blackguards, Castamir's chosen, Corsair archers. So his archer force is probably the least elite, but he's got some blackguards, so that more than makes up for it. They're very, very good indeed. Savages as well. And then back here we have his slightly more elite forces of fencers and Naru Naaru. And then the Corsair's dual swordsmen. So, without further ado, let us commence the battle. And this one is likely not to be as laggy nor as long as the previous one. So the trebuchet launches. Does it get any hits? Well, it gets a glancing blow on a unit of fencers, so that's worth it. The fencers are a very, very good unit indeed. They're pretty vulnerable to missiles, but the amount of damage they can do to an armoured unit in melee is pretty extreme. And I find the idea of dual-wielding rapiers quite interesting. Double the stab. But yes, it doesn't look like he's actually firing his artillery anymore. What's going on? Oh no, he is. He was just moving them. Let's see if we can see some good hits this time. Nope, misses again. I would actually recommend he wait until they get a little bit closer. Simply because you don't really want to waste your trebuchet ammo, even if you've got 3 of them. If you're going to bombard an army in submission as well, you would want to do it to Eskal Nordia's army, because his has got seemingly the most quality in it. The rest of them have all got a healthy force of Corsairs, which, to be honest, the Dol Amroth player should be dealing with pretty well in melee. More bombardment. That was a pretty healthy hit on a unit of savages. They are only firing 1 trebuchet though, which is wise. The Dol Amroth player certainly has the advantage in terms of cavalry, which probably is why the Corsair armies, well, the Umbar armies, have been allowed the quality they have. Because that cavalry is very, very effective if used right. Here comes another volley from the trebuchet. Kind of blending into the background there. What's he going for, I wonder? It's hard to tell with the trebuchet because they can be so inaccurate, but he certainly should be going for something like the Harbingers or the Warlords. But the army's now spread out enough to the point where I would say you probably don't want to bother. Wait until they're blobbed up again. And yes, the Marines, as you can see back here, they are running to the defensive position, which is wise. If they didn't have any melee forces out there at all, and all of these javelins will come in very, very handy indeed. This position's going to be quite interesting to take. I mean, Umbar doesn't have any artillery, but they do have archers, and in particular they have blackguards and crossbows, which for Umbar is pretty lethal. So you don't want to blob up too much, because Umbar can skirmish you down just as much as you can them. Even with these 3 trebuchets. Are they firing? It looks like they've stopped firing for the moment, which again is wise. Again, if there is like a sort of lull, I will cut it, which might be wise for the moment, in fact. Well, actually, what's going on back here? Is the cavalry going to make a move? No, it doesn't look like it. Again, though, I don't think this battle's going to last as long as the previous one. What is that? Never mind. But again, I don't think this battle's going to last quite as long as the previous one, so I feel a little bit more safe in just having the whole battle, even with the lulls, just so you can see the players sort of manoeuvring around, because there is something to say for that as well. But yes, the cavalry is going to be important on this one, and I'm glad that I'm doing a replay with cavalry. Again, the Dol Amroth cavalry in particular looks real nice as well. I mean, this is their lower tier cavalry, and it still looks that good. He's sending his Knights of the Silver Swan up onto that hill. It's an interesting position over here. If the players set out, they could have defended this area a little bit as well, but they are concentrating their forces on the central hill. Oh, we can go back to the artillery, in fact. And he is going for Nordia's army. Looks like he got a bit of a glancing hit. Let's go over there and see if we can see any crispy corpses. Indeed he did. On Crossbow Corsairs as well. Again, that's a target you want to go after if you want to like really knock them down, but a glancing blow once is not going to do too much damage, simply because obviously they'll keep the same amount of ammunition. But yeah, very lethal, the Crossbow Corsairs. Certainly a unit they're going to want to skirmish down, I feel. What's going on over here? Looks like a cavalry fight. Well, the Knights of the Silver Swan charged forward. They charged into pikemen, which is definitely not the sort of trade you want. I mean, there's a lot of dead pikemen, but they are garbage compared to the Knights of the Silver Swan. You don't want to waste them like that. And again, these pikes are not coming under any sort of ranged fire, which is not too... Well, actually they are. So they are going to expend some ammunition taking out these Corsairs. Again, it is easy kills because they're low tier pikemen. But I don't know, I think I'd rather go for the savages, I think. It's hard to say, I mean, you know, if you can get easy kills, it's often too good to pass up in a match like this. But at this point, as the... Well, that army over there, Nordia's army, I would go for that with the trebuchet. Possibly two of them, simply because he has the most quality and he's still a bit bunched together. Whereas Bryant over here, he's spread out a little bit, which is a little bit more wise, but he is going to come under ranged fire. The first person to approach this rock is always going to come under some ranged fire, I believe. Although this green blob over here, let's... Hang on a moment. Yeah, this army is pretty blobbed. I would definitely suggest the trebuchets try and go for this one. Again, it's how you choose to expend your ammunition. Often that can decide who wins or loses in a sort of attack-defense sort of scenario, which most, like, pre-planned scenarios like this often are. One army has to attack, one has to defend. It's very rare you see a scenario where they both start off on even footing, because people like the cinematic edge of a sort of defense. I like that he's leading the way with his pikemen in a way, though, because it does sort of prevent the cav charges from having quite so much devastating impact. But now, of course, he could just go around. These savages will be much more susceptible to a cav charge. They're only good against cav in sustained melee. And everyone knows the best way to use cav is to cycle charge. And here they come. The Knights of the Silver Swan. The counter charge was initiated, but ultimately these Corsair savages are going to be very roundly beaten. Again, the problem I can see already is that they're not advancing with Bryant. He's going to be picked off by the cavalry too easily. The cavalry and the archers. Nordia needs to advance with him. He needs to go up to the beacon and then go around. And the other two players need to be a little less passive. The cav is there, but you need to advance, because otherwise Bryant is going to die. And you need to make your numbers pay. I mean, there is a gap in the line here. The BELFALAS Marines are sticking out. Looks like they're going to get their javelins off. Yes, they are. It's the size of those pikemen, but they need to run. Otherwise they're going to get caught in melee against an axe unit. Looks like they're going to make it, though. Yes, they are. By the skin of their teeth. Yeah, more archer fire coming down, although to be honest they are arcing their shots a little bit. This is a big force of savages though, and they could get into the sides of these halberds and spears. The spears in particular will be a good matchup for the savages. They'll probably lose, but they will do a decent amount of damage to a spear unit. Savages very much focused around their attack. You can see the cav force there, retreating. Have they taken any losses? Doesn't look like it. Ah, over here we can see the Tirith Aya Knights. I was looking for them. They are going to try and surround Bryant's current force, and this is why he needs assistance. He's a bit too easy to isolate at the moment, and the defenders are taking reasonable advantage of that. Again, if we look over here, the Corsairs are still sort of going in. They're a little bit blobbed up, but I don't blame them for that, because it does allow them to survive the cav charges a little bit more easily. But yeah, here we go. The Knights. Oh, and it's Fencers. No. Oh, what a loss this would be. Not the best charge, though. They only managed to get the back corner of that unit. But even so, Fencers would be a devastating loss for Bryant's army. Balance of forces evenly matched. They might get a few kills on these Knights. These Knights managed to charge... Well, they're being surrounded by pikemen and Fencers. They need to get out of sustained melee with the Fencers. Otherwise, this cavalry is going to start to die. And honestly, the cavalry that they're deploying here is more important than one unit of Fencers. They're good, but there are other armies that have them in them. Here we can see a rear charge from the Knights of the Silver Swan into the backs of these pikemen. But again, they're going to turn around and get a few kills pretty quickly. And now they're trying to get out of there. So those knights took a few losses actually. There's quite a few Tirithea knights, and now there's more arriving. 3 units of them all in all, running around. Knights of the Silver Swan, so the cavalry is running amok over here. What about up here? Oh, he's going to get a rear charge on the savages, yeah. This is going to end the first attack. Well, actually no, he's charging uphill, so it's not likely to be a huge impact. But it might be enough to send them routing, simply because they've taken so many losses already. The other armies are being far, far too passive. They need to back him up. Even if you think the attack is rather poorly planned, you need to follow him, because otherwise you're just going to lose a whole army for nothing, essentially. And in this, well, in the previous battle, obviously on Osgiliath, that was the whole point, that you were softening them up one at a time. But here, no such rules exist, I believe. And that's why you want to attack as one. Make your numbers pay. But it's not being so at the moment. And these Tirithea knights are a little bit surrounded by these pikes. Well, I mean, they're losing their lower tier of cavalry a little bit. But they're also losing far too... I mean, they're getting javelined in the back. Again, perhaps this wasn't the most thought out assault by Brian, but I do think the onus lies on his allies a little bit for just leaving him for dead here. It is rather tragic. Although it does look like there's more forces from Bryant out here. Yeah, these Corsair warriors, they're just getting charged into oblivion. The dual swordsmen are back there. He's also got his harbingers with his warlords. And again, Nordia is sending forward just his warlords, which isn't going to be enough. You need to send forward your entire army. They're being far too slow, the attackers. I'm surprised that they haven't started bombarding the attacking armies with trebuchets, to be honest with you, but honestly it's turned out to be quite good, because that would actually force them to attack. And as it is, they're quite content to sit back and let their ally perish. More pikemen. Again, look at all this cavalry. Knights of the Silver Swan as well. This cavalry isn't going to go away. It isn't going to die on this first army alone, if that's what the attackers were hoping. The line battle. Well, it's not much of a line battle, it's just a clump battle. The savages, they've killed a few spearmen, but ultimately not enough. And here we can see the trebuchet letting loose. The Nimrodel Rangers firing as well. Their problem being a glass cannon is lessened somewhat by their positioning. Let's see. Well, that was a miss. Again, his Balaguer up. Oof. Well, that wasn't quite as bad as I first thought. It's Corsair warriors and it was only a glancing shot. Let's go back over to the main event now. Under the trees here. The dual swordsmen, the warlords of Umbar are doing their best, but they've taken... Victory should be the attackers, simply because of their numbers advantage and the lack of real defences that the defending players have. But they've made a few missteps here in the early game. They need to charge. These Harbingers of Castamere and Sustainment, again, they're getting charged down by Knights of the Silver Swan, but they should get a few kills if the Knights of Silver Swan stay in melee. Knights of the Silver Swan, I should say. And again, Warlords of Umbar coming in, charging into the backs of the Knights. Should pay off pretty well. The Warlords of Umbar are a legit cavalry unit. Not as many cavalry units as the defending players have, though. Again, that still goes on. Still a few units of pikemen here and there. Over here, though, these Marines, they might have used up all their ammo on savages, which is not the best use of their ammunition, to be honest with you. The defensive line would have held regardless, and now we finally have another assault from the other side. Oof. The trebuchet does make things difficult, but you want to get closer. You want to get actually right up close to this cliff wall, then the archers and the trebuchet won't be able to hit you. You don't want to sit back there in blocks. But yes, the Balaguer halberds have been sent forward first. Not a bad idea. The Edelond halberds are better, but the Balaguer halberds are no slouches. And again, it looks like they're going to be backed up by Corsair savages. So this should work out. The amount of pressure should tell on this front unless they reinforce. Halberd versus halberd. The Edelond halberdiers are probably the best basic halberd in the... Now this will hold this line for quite a long time. Talon Knights will hold against all of these forces, but whether it's the best use of their time at the moment, well, that remains to be seen. Over here, the defenders have done a very good job at wrapping them up. The BELFALAS Marines getting into melee. Bryant's army is largely gone, I think. Let's look at the percentages, shall we? 17% advantage for the attackers. That's what they need to be seeing for a lot more of the battle. Harbingers of Castamere under arrow fire. Not a bad choice. They don't have shields. Yeah, we have Bryant. The remainder of Bryant's army is going around, but yeah, he took a lot of losses on the approach. Back here we can see the cavalry. The cavalry has taken a few casualties. You know, they have been getting caught in melee with the likes of fencers and harbingers, so it's not too surprising, but they still have plenty more cav. They have got their white knights. They've got their white knights somewhere anyway, and Tundra's Fox is now advancing. He would be better off going around this way, certainly. Let's have a look over here. Yes, he's gotten close to the cliffside. That's a good move. The Balaguer halberds at the front have been mulched up good by the defensive position now that the Talon Knights are here as well. Oh, and actually it must have been the javelins. But yes, this defensive position is pretty solid, but this army of Umbar should definitely keep attacking it. You need to put pressure on all fronts, otherwise the defenders are able to take the advantage on other fronts. Using up javelin fire on Corsair savages is honestly a good thing as well. Javelins are meant to be anti-armor units, really, focusing on high value targets, and that is something that the Corsair savages are neither of. You know, I quite like the Corsair savages, but not because they're a hyper elite unit that's good against skirmish forces. Meanwhile, if we look over here, Tundra's Fox is indeed sending around. He's got a lot of his forces in loose, which again, not too surprising. Oh, he's getting his Corsair blackguards under attack. Needs to get them out of there, because they are a very, very strong unit indeed. And they're going to need them. Harbingers of Castamere and Corsair dual swordsmen. Oh, those warlords of Umbar got trapped. They tried to charge in and now they are doomed. So this might be Nordia's general. Nordia's army needs to move forward like now. You know, his army is doing nothing back there. You know, he's doing nothing useful back there anyway. His allies are all attacking. And if he were attacking as well, I would say this battle was pretty much a foregone conclusion. But his general is already dead. You better hope that it's not down to him at the end, because the morale malus that suffers could be key, and it's not often that a general's death forces the issue. Only orc factions tend to have that problem. But yes, the warlords of Umbar, that's another cavalry unit gone. The trebuchet going into the Corsair archers, not really a worthwhile target if I'm honest. I mean, if you want them gone, you may as well use your own archers against them. These archers are not exactly the cream of the crop, but they are able to get some good shots off onto the defensive position. And they're going for this area here, which is not too surprising, but really I would be going for the javelins if I were them. You're not going to get too much damage done to the Talon Knights either way. Might get a bit more done to the now they're going for the rear army of Nordia. Looks like they got a hit as well. I don't want to get too far away from the battle though. The Rangers are out of ammunition. It's going to turn into a defensive position here on the hill. The dual swordsmen, they're impetuous and warmed up. With the Harbingers of Castamere are really no joke. But with the Haven Guard here, the defense should hold strong. The Haven Guard and that's the marksmen. Where are the spearmen? I guess they've taken a lot of losses. Now here come the rear charges against the Harbingers. Poor Bryant. The Knights of the Silver Swan making their presence felt. If we look down here, this is the other engagement. The Talon Knights have forced their way forwards actually. Mainly because I believe the Eidolon Halberds are in guard mode, so they will sort of stay in position, whereas the Talon Knights will sort of force them back. That's actually not a good thing, unless the Halberds go with them, because the amount of weight that the Umbar army here is bringing to bear means that the Talon Knights will eventually crack under the pressure. And there are halberdiers in here as well, and they're good versus armour. Still under arrow fire as well. Let's have a look over here, shall we? If we look over here, it looks like the Cav forces from Ebon Hawk have finally realised they're about to be charged by savages and blackguards. Well, the blackguards actually getting a few of their javelins off again. Not a bad target to go for. And in melee they're very good as well, so in a sustained fight they probably will still hold pretty firm, but you know, these charges are coming in now. I like the idea of using the savages to sort of block most of the damage from the blackguards, because then even in melee they will still be getting a lot of damage done to them. There are also spears in the background over here. I quite like the idea from Tundra's Fox to try and deal with this cavalry now, because if they don't, then it's going to be a headache for them for a long time. This cav over here charged into this unit of footman. Didn't get very many kills, but then there's not very many of them left, so the mass they can bring to bear is honestly not huge. Yes, all these Knights of the Silver Swan. What is going on over here? There's a lot of blue over here, but I'm not seeing. Well, I guess there's pikes and there's dual swords, but over here, I mean, Bryant's attack is certainly not going to break through, I don't think. I mean, these Harbingers of Castamere will do a decent amount of damage to the halberds, but I mean, they're going to die. Then we have the Corsair warriors. I don't know if you can hear the ice cream truck in the background. But yes, we have Tirithea marksmen in melee as well, but yes, this part of the line should hold pretty strong. Especially if they get charged in the back by those Knights of the Silver... Well, actually, no, there's pikemen there. Well played, attackers. Meanwhile, these Knights of the Silver Swan are getting surrounded. They're getting caught in the spider's web. And these ones over here are spending far too much time in melee. So it does look like Tundra's Fox is going to get his wish, and he's certainly going to decrease the effectiveness of this cavalry. Again, the micro is real when you have this much cav. And unfortunately for Ebon Hawk, it seems like it's too much micro. Because now there are fencers, and this means the end of his cavalry, really. Which, you know, it's a good thing for the attackers, really, because if this cavalry was able to run around and do damage like it's been doing for much longer, you know, the three armies that are attacking would have been ravaged somewhat. There are some Castamere's Chosen coming in as well. There are still more cavalry units over here, though. You know, they've got Master Blasters, Knights of the Silver Swan, another from Ebon Hawk, and some White Knights as well. And then there's White Knights back in here. But they're not going to do any good in here, honestly. I would get them out while you still can, and get them running around, because they're not going to do any good here. They are melee cav, and they can reinforce the line, but it's a waste of their potential on the charge. The Talon Knights are going in, and this should really tip the balance of power into the defenders, at least on this front. Elsewhere, the defenders need to set up a line, because their cavalry is, well, it's largely gone on this front. They still have cav running around. Well, I say running around, they still have cav outside their defensive boundaries, but Tundra's Fox did a good thing for his allies there, shutting down a good portion of the enemy cav. Over here, we have the grind. The Belagear halberds are at the front, the Talon Knights are still there. They've taken some casualties, of course, but the defensive position still holds strong. The halberdiers have come forward as they should have, and that means this front is likely to stay rather static, all in all. Which is not really a good thing for either side, because they're likely to both take losses in the numbers that they can ill afford to. But really, Tundra's Fox so far has been the player that's done the best for the attackers, I think. He's dealt with the cavalry, and now he's going to be able to engage a much wider portion of the line with quite a lot of mass. I mean, he's got some decent units as well. He's got some blackguards, which presumably still have ammunition. That could be lethal. And he's got some fencers as well, and some Royal Guard, and some Castamere's Chosen. So really it's going to be a matter for the trebuchets to try and deal with, which is something they still don't have much of an answer for. I mean, they can try and use the Corsair archers, but they're likely to not last very long under Nimrodel Ranger fire. But yes, all of these trebuchets need to be committed now. They need to have all their ammunition used up and keep this defensive position strong. We can see this cav unit in the background from Ebon Hawk charging into the back of what's left of Bryant's forces. Again, he's Haven Guard, doing an excellent job. Haven Guard versus Harbingers of Castamere is certainly a battle of elites. The noob box in the background there. If I was the ally of the player doing that, I would be furious, because that could very well cost them the fight in the long run. I mean, it shouldn't still. Umbar still should have the advantage enough that they can break this defensive position, but even so. Oof. Only a few casualties though. All of these Corsair horses. Again, not worth going after the Corsair archers with your trebuchet. You want to be going for these pikes. I think he is going for them actually. I think it's just inaccurate shots. But as long as they're getting kills every volley. Yes, if you look here, the Corsair warriors are about to set up. That was a good hit. That's what they need to see more of. Kills in bulk. Meanwhile, if we look over here, the Corsair warriors are trying to get into the backs of these wardens. Again, they're not really getting in there in volume there.
Without their general, they may lose heart and flee.
Where was that? Oh, I see where that was. That was over here. Dwelling's Royal Guard unit charged. They were isolated. I wonder what the hell they were doing over there. Well, no matter. He is now dead. That's bad for the attackers. I mean, they don't want their forces to rout early. Again, a glancing blow at best. The pikes are now getting into melee, which is a good move. I mean, under trebuchet fire like this, you want to get most of your units into melee if you can help it. Again, Tundra's Fox is doing the right thing. The units that aren't in melee are in loose formation. So he's denying the trebuchet the real potential of its kills. And a lot of its ammunition is being wasted. And his pikes are now getting, well, Dwelling's pikes are now getting into melee. Against these Adhalon halberds, they likely won't smash through the line, but they will at least engage them and not die too quickly. Again, we can see this trebuchet crew is now under fire. The wardens are back here. These marines still have ammunition, which is why the archers should really be going for them. Oof.
The enemy general lies dead.
Well, that's elsewhere in the fight, but one of the generals of the allied forces, well, I suppose the defending forces, lies dead. Trying to get some volleys into these black guards. So yeah, it was Ebonhawk's general. Again, these Corsair warriors. So this is now going to be the front line where basically all will be decided. If this line falls, I can't see the defenders lasting much longer. And against simple Corsair units, the halberdiers will hold. What about down here? What's going on? Yeah, this line is just a big mosh pit. The mulching grounds, as it were. But there are now some customers chosen in there, so they're not going to go away anytime soon. Trebuchet fire, again, not worth going into these Corsair archers. If anything, you want to be going into, well, I don't know. I mean, you don't want to risk your own lines. I think it might actually be worth using all your trebuchet ammo on the army in the distance, actually. Mainly because Tundra's Fox has done exactly the right thing in bunching close to your front line. These blackguards are under heavy javelin fire. And that's worthwhile because the blackguards are very good in melee as well. So definitely worth going after them. This part of the line remains strong. Well, these savages have actually managed to seek through. That's bad, but again, good thing that these halberds are on hand, ready to respond. They need to patch this part of the line up though. There is a gap, and these dual swordsmen I think want to go through there as well. These Haven Guard are also sallying out a little bit, trying to deal with these incursions. Meanwhile, they need to reinforce this line a little bit. The halberds are holding strong, and only a few of them have died. So yeah, sending up some more Corsair warriors. There's also these warlords of Umbar. I'm not sure what they're doing getting this close to a fight that they have no business in. This many pole arms. We get in a little bit closer, we can see the Corsair pikes. Simple pirates, really, up against trained men. So yes. Look in the background over here, though. The remnants of this cavalry force has done very, very well indeed. Dealing with more Balaguer archers. And again, we can see down here, Knights of the Silver Swan, getting up close and personal with these Corsair warriors. And their scimitars, Master Blaster, doing a good job with his cavalry. I like it. Making this army pay for it. Most of this army over here, though. I mean, this defensive front line is holding. There's Haven Guard and everything in here now. So, if they're going to break through, it will be from the front. Let's have a look at the percentages killed. They've pulled away even more. They're nearly 30% ahead. And this is exactly why the other army... Well, the other army is now moving, but it might already be too late. I mean, Tundra's Fox did a good job, I feel, in diffusing a lot of that cavalry, and it could be a lot more ugly than it already is. Again, we can see these Knights of the Silver Swan I'm glad that the cavalry was used to good effect in this battle, though. Because that's exactly what I wanted to show. It's been too long since I've done cavalry, and that was friendly fire on your own cavalry. Well, there you go. Ah, meat. Rotting meat. That's actually going to be useful for the defenders, I think, because the attackers are much more likely to rout in this sort of situation. The remnants of these warlords, these footmen, trying to trap that cavalry before it can do much more damage. There's dual swordsmen coming in. What about over here, where there was a slight crack in the line? Well, that has been very thoroughly closed. You know, dual swordsmen and savages. Good on the attack, but certainly not heavy-duty units, and these halberds will hold firm. Especially with these wardens. These Haven Guard are still around as well. Haven Guard out front. The front line holds. Well played by Dol Amroth. In the meta, Dol Amroth is certainly one of the stronger factions at the moment, I believe. Not to the point of being slightly overpowered like the Woodland Realms and Gundabad, but certainly a faction that is very, very strong. I do have a soft spot for Umbar as well. I feel like people underestimate them. They've got a lot of very, very good melee units. Well, there goes Bryant's general at long last. So I'm interested to see where Master Blaster's general is. Is that him? No, that's Knights of the Silver Swan. More Knights of the Silver Swan. We have more Knights of the Silver Swan. His White Knights are still back here. I mean, he's got the opportunity to get them out now. Oh, these Corsair archers. A small unit is going to be clattered by these Knights of the Silver Swan. Lances down. Over here we have Naru Royal Guard. And that's actually a good unit. And you can see actually the line is starting to bend here. And that was a pretty meek charge into those spears. So yeah, they need to reinforce this part of the line. Have they got anything that can do that? Well, yeah, they do. We've got some Haven Guard back here. A little bloodied up, but they may need to commit them. I mean, a break in the line is what they don't want. I mean, they've got the advantage now. They don't want to throw it away. But yeah, the Naru Naaru units. I do love the armour of them. I like the shields as well. Very unique looking shields, and the trident. The archer variant is also around. Oh, the javelins are being thrown into them. Perfect target for the javelins. Yeah, these halberdiers are still going to hold for the time being. These marines that are out of ammo, ready to reinforce the line.
Our allies have fled the field like cowards.
Well, that'll be Bryant's army. So Bryant's army is now gone. Nordir is now forward with his army, at least with the Blackguards. And they are going to need to be used to perfection at this point. You know, again, using them on halberdiers wouldn't be a bad move, just because the halberdiers have proven so effective at holding this line so far. They need a way in. I'm not sure if these trebuchets still have ammunition, I'm pretty sure. I mean, they haven't been fired full tilt all battle, so one of them at least should have ammunition. Nordir's army. Well, here come the Blackguards. And there's also a good deal of skirmish fire coming down. But here come the Knights of the Silver Swan. They are under a withering arrow storm though. But again, honestly, using up ammunition on the cavalry for the defenders at this point, not a bad idea. I mean, their defences are holding firm. And into the Crossbow Corsairs. Again, very well done. Going for a nice, soft, squishy unit, which is very deadly. Again, these knights are pretty bloodied up for that, though. And these Tirithea marksmen, you know, being used as a bit of a sacrificial unit. Getting into these Blackguards. The Blackguards are firing at these halberdiers, getting a lot of kills per volley. The Blackguards don't have a lot of ammunition, but the javelins they do throw are lethal. Well, let's have a look on this side. These armies are starting to falter. I mean, there are some Castemirs chosen that have managed to sort of seep in around the lines.
Victory will be ours.
And against the BELFALAS Marines, they will easily win that fight, but it's whether or not they get noticed by Haven Guard. This line is going to hold. I mean, they're being charged in the back. There are still elite units here, Talon Knights and Haven Guard. The best they can hope for is that they keep this part of the line occupied, because there's a lot of troops here that they could free up to go after Nordir's army. There goes the trebuchet shots. I mean, victory. If we look here, it is now 30%. Crossbow Corsairs, doing their best to defuse this cavalry. At this point, if Master Blaster got his general out and running around, I would say game over. I mean, those White Knights could really make Nordia's army pay. And again, Nimrodale Rangers, they're really just trying to get these Blackguards in melee so they can't throw their javelins as easily. Which I agree with, to a point. As long as you don't send out too many men to just do that. We look here, the Naru Royal Guard, they're still fighting and they're still doing a pretty damn good job of it. Victory seems certain, defeat seems certain. I mean, they've killed quite a lot of halberds though, and the halberds have been the bane of the attacker's existence at this point. Yeah, we still have a few Knights of the Silver Swan running around, trying to get a few charge kills on these fencers. That's worthwhile. What else do we have? Corsair Blackguards, they still have ammunition, I think, based on how they're holding their javies. Yeah, they want to... I don't know what they want to go for. I mean, if they can go for a unit of Haven Guard, that would be the Holy Grail. Well, it's a rather interesting situation, isn't it? These Nimrodale Rangers are running around. There are a few dead Blackguards, but not many. No, again, those Nimrodale Rangers are going to stand no chance against Corsair Blackguards in melee. Over here, the defenders are handily winning. And pretty soon they will be able to free up some of their forces. Yep, there's nothing in reserve anymore. And there's only a thin line of Corsair warriors that remains, and against Haven Guard, they don't stand a chance. Let's go back over here, though. These Naru Royal Guard are still fighting. There's a few Blackguards charging in. Again, this is sort of the remnants of Tundra's Fox's army, and I do think it's right that he focuses on this front, because this front is actually bowing a little bit. I mean, the fact that he's got Castamir's Chosen in behind the lines, that's a good sign. I mean, if he gets some units around, these halberdiers are gone, and then suddenly the line is not looking so strong. And then Nordia hopefully could make them pay for it, but I mean, eventually he's going to run out of skirmish fire, and then we shall see. I mean, the trebuchets still have ammunition, which is honestly the most scary thing. And finally, these White Knights are getting out into the mix. Again, some good hits. Castamir's Rangers, is it worth it? Probably not. I mean, all of these units up front are skirmishers. His main army's far back, so I mean, the White Knights are probably free to go and charge in. I think he's been too conservative with these White Knights, but the rest of his cavalry he was good with, so I'll let him off. We look over here, he's seen the danger, I think, because he's now reinforcing this line with Nimrodale Rangers that are out of ammunition and more BELFALAS Marines to try and bottle up the faltering line, it must be said. There are Blackguards, there are footmen. And yes, he is now getting out into the field with his White Knights. Very much needed, I think. Because while they are so far ahead, you know, it's still dangerous, and the attackers are starting to pull it back a little bit. So they need to be careful. Again, this is not what I would recommend doing. At this point, don't bother sending out more. Send your cavalry, but don't send your infantry. You're just going to send them to their deaths. And you're going to need a defensive position, a strong defensive position. This trebuchet needs to fire on something. If we look over here, well, these Naru Royal Guard are being surrounded by Marines. So Tundra's Fox's assault, you know, Nordia needs to attack now, because this assault isn't going to last forever, and he needs for it to be going on.
The enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their
I don't know. I mean, Dol Amroth have certainly taken losses in places. Again, these Talon Knights and Edelon Halberdiers are probably better off elsewhere. There's no forces going to come through here, at least not in a hurry, so you have time to reposition if they do. Those White Knights, plenty of time to go around and charge. These Blackguards still have ammunition, but they're not too eager to use it yet. The Fencers are in melee. Again, it's kind of an interesting situation. I do think Dol Amroth will win this now, though. I think, you know, the disparity between the attackers' attacks was too great. Getting into these Crossbow Corsairs is worth it, I will say. The archers a little less so, but the crossbow corsairs are so deadly at range and so fragile in melee that it is worth it. Definitely one of those glass cannon units. Probably the best example of a glass cannon unit, in fact. Yes, these marines. There's also some wardens down here to add a little bit more survivability to this sally out. I can appreciate a good sally out, but you know, as the defenders, when the odds were this long against you, I honestly wouldn't blame you for not doing so. Meat is being thrown. Corsair blackguards charging into the rear. I think he's going to send over more marines, which would be interesting. I mean, his Haven Guard is under a bit of a withering arrow storm, but they're holding firm. So that will be Dwelling's army. All gone now. Someone has admitted defeat. So we've got Dol Amroth White Knights. Charging around. I mean, if they can charge into the backs of these forces, it would be very, very useful. Just to deal with Tundra's Fox's army, and then suddenly, honestly, attacking probably wouldn't be the worst idea. I mean, Nordir has been far, far too passive. It's been an excellent showcase of why being passive is never a good thing. Never ever. Because, you know, leaving your allies out to dry, it's going to bite you in the long run. And I mean, even if you've got the most elite army and think, well, I should go in last, you should still go forward and be ready to advance with your allies quickly, because otherwise this happens. And I do believe the battle at this point is pretty much done and dusted. I mean, I could be wrong. The balance of power is still not horribly out of favour. I mean, looking at Nordir's army, he's got some footmen, which are decent. He's got some halberds, which again could be okay. But really it's the Castamir's units that he's going to be relying on, and these Narduzagar. And ultimately I don't think it's going to be enough. I mean, with that unit of White Knights that's around, the cavalry, I think that's going to be terminal. But again, this sally out actually might turn out to be the great leveler, because it wasn't going to be cost effective. I mean, going after the Crossbow Corsairs wasn't a bad idea, because there are basically none of them left. Well, there are still 39 of them. There's also some Narduba Wib. So yeah, they're going to send out more. Not sure how I feel about this. I mean, they could have won a long odds defense. Again, we could have seen the defenders win twice in a row. But this is making it look like maybe not. I mean,
our ally lies dead.
Well, there goes the general. That's Tundra's Fox, slain by a marine. But yeah, Tundra's Fox's army. I mean, all of these units are going to go over to help fight Nordir, and there are still Talon Knights over here, and more Haven Guard, and more halberds. The rest is just marines and rangers though. And as much as I do like the look of these marines with their very neat looking swords and their uniforms, in melee, not the best. Look at this. Victory. Tundra's Fox. Pretty much gone.
The enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their men.
So this is it. Nordir now has to win for his allies, and if he does win, I take back all I said about what he's done so far in the battle. But somehow I doubt that, because here we have a trebuchet firing down on his army as it advances. Oh, Tundra's Fox still has a unit of Corsair blackguards. Going to try and get into the sides of these Haven Guard as well. Even in death. Oh, it's still got ammunition as well. Oh no. That's a disaster. I mean, the Haven Guard, you notice that like none of them died, but they're still going to take an enormous amount of damage from that. There, one of them finally fell. Halberdiers are coming in. These White Knights are going to charge into them as well. So, you know, this should be the end. Yeah, there we go. Corsair Blackguards. I mean, able to fire their javelins point blank, but now they're going to be in melee against halberds. Nordir's army swinging out wide. But, you know, again, I think there's too much. I mean, if we look back here, there's still a unit of halberds. Depleted marines and Talon Knights, admittedly, but I think the defenders simply have too much now. You know, the skirmish phase for Nordir is over, so he doesn't have any ranged capability, so he's going to have to get through based on his martial might alone, and I don't think he has enough of that. Well, do the crossbows still have ammunition? I think they do. You know, these Haven Guard are taking a bit of a beating when it comes to skirmish fire, but they are still cleaving their way through the opposing units. These Wardens as well, doing a good job against the Blackguards. Again, part of this line is made up of by Rangers. Maybe not the best thing to see. Looking over here, we can see the Footman. The Blackguards are firing into those Halberdiers, I think. No, they're firing into the Haven Guard still. Wise move.
The battle is very much in our favour. Victory
The battle is still very much in the attacker's favour. I mean, they are pulling it back. They're pulling it back indeed. Within 12% now. Again, I think that sallying out from the defenders was ill-advised. Those artillery shots not getting the desired result. Those White Knights are miles away for some reason. Suddenly the defenders are the ones making the mistakes. That's not good. I mean, these Rangers, they're going to get forced through. Need to be reinforced now. There's Haven Guard right there. Well, I mean, these Footmen are probably going to get surrounded, to be fair. By Marines. Well, they're sending in the depleted Marines. I mean, they're very eager to use up the Marines first, which I see why. But again, this sallying out. The Haven Guard are so good that they probably will win this. The Trebuchet crew is out of ammunition. And they're going to go into the Corsair Blackguards, trying to prevent their javelins from being thrown again. That's another lethal shot. None of them died, but they are all taking damage. Trebuchet crew sacrificing itself. Halberdiers getting around the flank. More Trebuchet shots. Rangers. They're going to be going into melee against halberds soon. Again, the other unit of Haven Guard is coming over here. These units of Footmen have been surrounded, so they're going to die pretty quickly. But the line is gone. And again, I think they realise that. I think they realise they're going to get surrounded if they're not careful. And this Trebuchet needs to stay firing. Again, a good hit. A good hit would probably cement my belief that the defenders are going to win this. Only 10% now, so the defenders are starting to reel it back in. Where are the Castamir's units? That's what I want to know. They're still back there. All of the elite units are still to come. I would definitely go after them with the Trebuchet. Even though they're in like a sort of narrow line. Ah, archer fire. These Nimrodel Rangers still have archers. They're going after the Harbingers. I would go after the Fencers. By far the most vulnerable to archers, and you need kills at this point. Mistakes may cost you the fight here, defenders. Oh my. Well, mistakes were made on both sides, but the defenders, as I've said before, defenders can ill afford mistakes most of the time. Look over here. The Halberdiers of Dol Amroth are so sturdy. These Corsair Blackguards still firing their javelins into these Haven Guard. The Haven Guard are doing their best. Doing their best to tie up this flank. And these Wardens are doing the same. But again, not quite the same punch as the Haven Guard. This has been a very close fight overall. At least that's how it's going to end. These Footmen. Again, Talon Knights are being committed. More Halberdiers. These Footmen are surrounded. They're going to die. More Halberds are being committed. These Halberdiers are around the flank. Where is the cavalry? Yes. This is how the cavalry should be used. They should absolutely be used to charge into these elite units. They've taken a few losses by the looks of things, but I assume that's because they were strayed too long in melee. The cavalry is going to be key. Here they go. Decent charge.
Very much in our favor. Victory will be ours.
Bleeding those halberds a little bit of their numbers. Again, it's being reeled in. Only 7% now. Oh, such a close hit to the Harbingers, but it didn't actually hit them. These Marines are being sent around to surround these Belgier Footmen. This is tense. It's also much longer than I thought it would be. for what is essentially a field battle with one choke point. These Talon Knights going into the backs of these Belagir halberds. I do love the Talon Knights. Again, I rarely use them though. Most of the time I always splurge for Haven Guard instead. So it's good to see the Talon Knights over here. They're going to win on this front, unless of course the elites come. Here comes a charge onto the fencers. Good move. They need to get out of there though. Need his general to survive as well. He's the last one out, I think, anyway. No, he wasn't. There's his general. You can see him with the slightly shiny unit model. But yes, good move. I mean, if you just keep them here, I mean, eventually they're going to have to commit to attack your front line, then you can hammer and anvil them good. Let's have a look at these Haven Guard over here. Victory still seems certain for them. There's only 22 remaining, though. It's a bloody fight indeed. Oh, these Harbingers, they found a gap. Exactly the sort of thing you don't want to see. The Harbingers of Castamere at this point, I would say, are definitely the attacker's best units. He has 2 of them, I think. Actually, no, those are chosen, aren't they?
The battle is very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
It's going to be very, very close. Again, they've pulled it back to within 5% now. But time's running out. I mean, these Harbingers and these Castamere units are going to be the key to success here for the... Where's the Cav? Ah, the Cav's over here. Trying to free up the remnants of this Haven Guard so that it can reinforce the line, and I don't blame them. Good move. But over here they've got a real problem. I mean, they're in danger of being completely surrounded. So yeah, the sallying out from the defenders, it's looking more and more like it was a horrendous error. Because now fencers are surrounding them, Abrazanim are surrounding them. Even with this much Haven Guard left, I mean, it's going to be a big ask for the defenders to come back from this now. The Cav is going to need to use to perfection. Where's that Haven Guard? So this Haven Guard is now free, charging into the backs of these footmen, which it's going to need to do. It's going to need to get, you know, a lot more kills. They're also going to need these wardens, and then they're going to need hammer and anvil. Haven Guard charging in. I'm glad the frame rate of this one isn't quite as bad as the one previously. So yeah, the Haven Guard, I mean, defeat seems certain because there's so few of them. If the Wardens get up here, that should swing back. Halberdiers, I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. I mean, they're using just their pure grit to get in here with the Castamere's chosen. They're being forced out of position. It's a blob now. The blob is real. If we look up here, Corsair Blackguards, Tundra's Fox, still alive. Yeah, the attackers are going to win. Only 2% in it. But they are going to pull it back. Well, I still don't agree with what Nordia did. Sitting back for that long, I think, was the wrong move. Because the vast majority of times you will be punished for that. And if the defenders hadn't sallied out, they would have been punished for that. They would have lost this, I think. But as it is, they win. The attackers are going to have this. Yeah, even on numbers. Well, not even on numbers, because the percentages, the attackers of course have more numbers. Victory for Umbar it's going to be. Well, there were numerous errors in this fight by both sides, I think. Again, I don't like to sort of get all snobby about tactics and all that, and how, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. But, you know, I do believe that, you know, Nordia should have advanced sooner, and I think that sallying out from the defenders was a critical error. You know, if you're going to have these defensive positions, even if you're being skirmished down, you know, you can't charge out like that, because, you know, you don't have the luxury of doing that in this situation, as it has proven to be. The cavalry is, you know, the cavalry needs to stop fannying around and get into this fight now. mean, these wardens are going to come in, but like they're not going to be enough, I don't think. Yeah, if we look, 1% advantage to the attackers now. And the cavalry is going to need to do work. I mean, if we look over here, there's routing halberds. The cavalry is going to need to do a ton of damage. That was a decent charge. But not decent enough, I don't think. I mean, all these units are solid enough to stand up to them. And they're going to lose men on each charge. But yes, a very, very close battle indeed. 6 players.
Our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
So I believe that was Evan Hawke's army, yes. His army has been completely destroyed. And there goes Master Blaster's general. And this is really the death rattles of the Dol Amroth defense. I think the trebuchets were probably used a bit ineffectually as well. I didn't see one like really solid hit. It's possible there was one and I just missed it, but somehow I doubt it. The White Knights still charging around. I mean, the Wardens and a few vestiges of the Haven Guard are all that remains in terms of the infantry fight. And spears such as this are not going to be sufficient to deal with the remaining Umbar forces, especially with that mass. Denying them the line fight. Where's that cavalry? Well, the cavalry is going to have to go into all of the elite units. I mean, it's not exactly the most welcoming sight if you're a fencer. Well done, fencers, you've served me well. Now go and take a charge from the White Knights. How many of them are going to die on this charge? Just the one? Yeah, just the one. Well, not that it matters. These Wardens are dying pretty thick and fast. They've been overwhelmed. Tundra's Fox still... That unit of Corsair Blackguards that he's been running around, he's used them very well. Well, these White Knights, I mean... This is basically game. Tirithea Wardens are gone, so... All we need to do is wait for the White Knights to be destroyed, and they will. I mean, cavalry is very strong, but it's not strong enough to rout all of these units off the field. And he's going to try and surround them. Charge in with the Narduzagar. Yeah, he's just going to miss them. No, he is. He's going to get them a little bit. Again, I think it's best if we just send it up to maximum speed. And look down from on high. Again, trying to get as many kills as possible is okay, I understand that, but at this point you may as well just commit your cav to melee. You've lost. What is he doing? Well, judging by the timer at the top, we don't have much time left anyway. Is this all they have left? I guess it is. I mean, it's not a huge amount left. 96% to 100%. Very, very close fight indeed. Did it go to 97? No. So there we are. Captain Andanian is every single player apparently. So it's pretty hard for me to tell who did what. I would say that the one who got most kills was probably Nordia, I think, just because he was able to break them at the end. But again, I still think that a lot of credit should go to Tundra's Fox for his part in that. I think that overall his plan from beginning to end in how he was going to use his army was probably the best. He was able to deal with a lot of the enemy cavalry, and that I think really paid dividends in the long run. Again, the defenders could have won that if not for that charge. And in fact, you know, suicidal attacking charges is going to be a theme of the next battle I'm going to be showing as well. That wasn't quite so suicidal, but it was still probably the thing that lost them the fight. But I still think it was a very good fight. I mean, it was very, very close, so no one can complain about that. Very, very hotly contested, but Umbar and the attackers, they win this day. And so next up we will be doing it's not really a scenario, but it is a 2v2v2 in Mountain Pass. That's what I'm going to be showing next, and I think I will get to doing the Gondorian Winged Swordsman in the Quality versus Quantity series pretty soon, because I've neglected that a little bit of late. But then I've had so many good battles that I wanted to show, so I feel like they take priority because there's more to talk about with that. But I will be doing that soon, I think. So I hope you'll join me for that, and I hope you enjoyed this.